What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. It's been a minute. Sorry about missing last week. Work got kind of crazy, but we're here right now. If you are enjoying the fitness and nutrition content that we put out on this channel, why don't you go ahead and subscribe? We'd love to have you as part of the crew. We put out new fitness and nutrition videos every week. Wink, wink. Maybe every 2 weeks. Anyway, we're trying to get them out to you as much as possible and as fast as possible. So go ahead and click that subscribe button. Let's get into the video for today. Today, as you can see by the title, we're talking about a topic that has plagued me for a long time. Weight loss plateaus. I, as you know, have been fighting weight loss my entire life, and hitting a weight loss plateau can feel so disheartening. It can make you just want to throw every piece of progress you made out the window, go down to the Dunkin' Donuts, get 2 dozen, come back home and dip them in a gallon of ice cream and just say, screw it, I'm done with the diet. But I'm here to offer you 5 tips, a couple of them psychological, a couple of them actionable tips that you can do when you hit the weight loss plateau that will hopefully get you over the weight loss plateau and back into the weight loss that you are looking for. Before we can get on to the first tip, we need to talk about what a plateau actually is. So the way I'm defining a weight loss plateau is you've been in a calorie deficit and you have been experiencing some weight loss or preferably fat loss during that phase. And all of a sudden, the past 2 weeks, you've been stagnant. Say you're dropping at a good smooth incline, and then all of a sudden you leveled out, and whatever you do, you can't seem to get back on the weight loss train. That is a plateau. I'm not talking about you weighed yourself on Wednesday and now on Friday you're still the same. Oh my God, I'm in a plateau. No, it's been 2 days. Relax. Water weight fluctuates, hormones fluctuate. I'm talking about a long-term 1 to 2 to 3 weeks of stagnation. Then maybe we need to take a look at what's going on, apply some of these tips, and get you back on track, okay? Now that we've gotten that taken care of, let's move into tip number 1. So tip number 1 is don't panic. I repeat, do not panic. Take a deep breath. Let it out. We're going to get through this, okay? The main thing that I can say is when you look down at the scale for 2 straight weeks and there's no movement, or God forbid there's a movement of a pound upwards, the tendency is for most people to throw everything out the window, to reset, to say, oh my God, I've got to cut my calories by another 2,000. I've got to starve myself. I've got to do intermittent fasting. I've got to do whatever it is. And that is just not the case. We need to follow the plan. We need to take deep breaths, reset, make sure that we know what's going on, make sure that we understand what's happening in our body. There's a myriad of things that could be going on with this weight loss plateau, and we'll get into them as we continue this video. But first and foremost, don't panic. So what I want you to do, something actionable that you can take away from this tip, is if you're weighing yourself, and you should be weighing yourself maybe 2-3 times a week, just to make sure you can get an average of your weekly loss or your weekly gain. If after 2 weeks it's stagnant, plus or minus 0.5 pounds, I want you to step off the scale. I want you to take a deep breath and understand that this is a marathon and not a sprint, okay? A nice deep breath, calm down. Everything's going to be fine, right? We have tools to get you back to where you need to be, okay? The worst thing possible is, like I said earlier, hopping off that scale, getting in the car and heading to McDonald's and ordering one of everything on the menu. As great as that sounds, in the moment, we've got to put off that fear. We've got to put off that coping mechanism because we know that we have a goal in the future and we've got to get towards that goal, okay? So trust me, and more importantly than me, trust the thousands of people that have done this before you and have seen results, okay? There's a myriad of evidence. There is a huge backlog of following the plan, getting people where they want to be, okay? Trust those people, trust the process. As much as it sucks to hear, you have to trust it, because if we don't have this process, then you might as well just go get liposuction, right? So, tip number 1, do not panic. Tip number 2, here we go. So tip number 2 kind of goes hand in hand with the first one, and that is look at the mirror, not the scale, okay? So let's break this down a little bit. When we talk about weight loss, specifically, a lot of the times what we're really talking about is fat loss, because if you're like me, if you're like most people, we want to lose weight, but we want to lose that weight in the form of fat mass in our body, as opposed to fat-free mass, muscle, tissue specifically, right? So we want to make sure that we're taking our mindset away from just a numerical value, just the number on the scale. We want to make sure that we understand that success can be measured not only on the number on the scale, but also how you look in the mirror. How are your clothes fitting? Are you feeling less winded when you walk up the stairs? Are you able to play with your kids more? Are you able to bend and get into a better position without knee pain, without hip pain? These are all measures of success that a lot of the time we just throw out the window because all we're focused on is the number on the scale. And that number is important. I'm not lying to you. That is an important number. And you want to be able to say, oh, I lost 40 pounds or I lost 50 pounds or whatever it is. You have to take a step back and understand that body composition is a complex issue. There are a ton of other factors that go into it, which means there are a ton of other measures of success. I tell this to all my clients. Make sure you understand that you can measure success in a lot of different ways. So, an actionable tip from this one, take progress pictures. I know it's uncomfortable. I know you may not like what you see when you first start, but we have to get over that, okay? We are on a journey, right? First time you take the picture, you may say, I hate this, and you might try and delete it. Keep it. Keep it and just see. Week to week, month to month, however often you want to take them. Me personally, I take my progress pictures every 2 weeks, and I keep them for my whole weight loss phase. And then I look back and say, wow, you know, my stomach, I think I lost a little bit on my stomach, or my lats are protruding more. Whatever it is, you can notice little differences in your physique, which will help you keep going when the number is staying the same, okay? So I know it's uncomfortable, but just do it for me, okay? Just take a couple pictures for your boy, please. Think about it. All right, moving on to the next tip. Okay. Tip number 3, we've talked a little bit about psychology in the first 2 tips. Now we're going to talk a little bit about more of our physiology, right? We want to talk more about what we can do to maybe increase that caloric deficit. And that is my favorite thing in the world, increasing your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. I have touched on this a couple of times because it is so important. If you are killing yourself in the gym, and then you come home and you lay on your bed for the rest of the day and you don't get anything done, I'm sorry to say, you're leaving calories on the table. It's just a fact of life. If you're not active throughout the day in little ways, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. You don't have to be walking a marathon or 30,000 steps a day or whatever it is, riding your bike on at work for 8 hours a day. No, just increasing it a little bit can add an extra deficit of 200, 300, 400 calories that will push you over the edge towards weight loss again, right? So what I mean is, when you're on the phone at work, take a lap around the office. When you're on that conference call, just go ahead and take a lap. Park further away from work. Park further away from the restaurant you're going into. Park further away from the gym. Get those extra steps in. Something that you can do that is so important is buy yourself a Fitbit or a step tracker or an Apple Watch or whatever it is. If you can afford it, it's a great tool, right? You can get a pedometer that you clip onto your belt for $15 on Amazon, right? So it doesn't have to be one of these fancy schmancy watches, okay? Any type of step counter, set yourself a step goal and hit that step goal. It doesn't have to be strenuous. Walking can be very fun, can be very low stress. Just get those steps, right? Something else that I see a lot of the times that I would like to bring to your attention is, in the gym, in between sets, what are we doing in our rest times? If you're resting a minute and a half, that could be time spent circling around the bench, whatever you're doing, walking back and forth. Instead of on Instagram, looking at your Instagram crush, get off the phone, get up off the bench, and walk back and forth. I have added this in, and it has made a huge difference. I'm hitting 15,000 steps a day like nothing. I don't even think about it because I've added in these little things, and I want you to try these as well, okay? So find something that you can do that's going to increase your activity so that you can get back into the caloric deficit without pulling out any of the food, right? That's where we want to be. If you're starving to death and you don't want to lose that precious food, you got to say, okay, well, I got to increase the caloric surplus somehow. So this is something that I would try before we start taking out food, okay? Because it can be really stressful to continue to take out food to increase that deficit. So, like I said in my last video, increasing the activity also increases the deficit. And it's a little bit less mentally taxing, at least for me. If you're someone that's not feeling any hunger, maybe we go into food, which is what I'm going to talk about in my next tip. But for someone like me who says, don't you dare take that one morsel of food away from me, or I swear to God, I will push your head through a wall, then we need to look at activity rather than removing more food, okay? So try some of these. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear how you've increased your activity even a little bit, right? Sounds good? Moving on to tip number 4. All right, tip number 4, the opposite side of the coin to tip number 3. Maybe it's time to remove a couple hundred calories from the diet. I know it's going to be tough, but sometimes we have to readjust our calorie count, right? As we lose weight, our body needs less and less for maintenance. So we've got to match that if we want to stay in our deficit, okay? You're already taking 15,000 steps a day. Your coworkers are giving you weird looks because you walk by them 1,000 times on the phone, right? You've given up your car, you're riding your bike to work 800 miles per month, right? Whatever it is, you cannot add any more activity. You've reached the end of your rope in terms of activity. So now we have to go to food. Unfortunately, that's just how it goes. Hopefully, you can do it in small intervals, okay? 200, 300 calories at a time. Nothing too crazy, nothing that's gonna put you over the edge in terms of stress and psychological pressure, okay? We wanna make this as simple and as easy as possible. It's hard work already, so we don't wanna push you over the edge, right? So, my recommendation, actionable tip from this tip is take 200 or 300 calories out. If you're having a midday snack, maybe try and switch it to something less calorie dense, right? If you're having a packet of nuts, maybe we move more towards vegetables, okay? Anything that it can be, right? Use the internet to your advantage. Low calorie, high density foods are what you need, right? You want fiber and you want protein. These things are gonna fill you up and hopefully there'll be less calories than whatever the snack is that you're having, okay? Maybe take out some oils in terms of what you're using to cook for lunch and dinner, right? There are ways that we can remove 200 and 300 calories without physically taking food off of the plate, okay? So that psychologically it still seems like you're eating the same amount, but we're removing a little bit of that extra stuff, right? Butters, oils, changing up your snacks a little bit. These are things that you can do that allow you to trick yourself into thinking that you're still eating the same amount, okay? It's gonna be tough, but it's possible. One more thing before we move on here. I don't want you to starve yourself, okay? You can only cut so much and so much and so much, and once we get down to a certain point, for me, personally, with my clients, it's 1,200 calories. If we go below that, that's something that I'm not qualified to deal with. That needs to be supervised by a physician, okay? So if you think that you need to go that route, maybe it's time to enroll the services of a physician, a registered dietitian, or a nutritionist, right? That's something that needs to be supervised because once we get lower than that, we're dealing with some issues with hormones and things can spiral out of control. We can get into some disordered eating. So I just want to make sure when I say to cut calories, I don't mean to cut down below 1,000 or 800 unless you're under supervision of a physician, all right? Just wanted to get that settled. Let's move on to the 5th and final tip for today's video. Okay, this is where I'm pulling out the tough love hammer and I'm bonking you on the head with it, right? Are you truly in a calorie deficit? Think about it. Think about it really, really, really hard. Are you actually tracking your food? Are you actually exercising? Are you actually increasing your NEAT to the point where you're in a calorie deficit that is appropriate for your weight loss goals? If you are not 100% sure, you cannot call where you're at a plateau because you don't know if what you're doing is not working anymore because you don't know if you're actually following the plan, right? So you have to be honest with yourself. You cannot lie to yourself in this process, as hard as it is. And the opportunity to lie is right there. Personally, man, when I'm doing a cheat meal, I just won't add it into MyFitnessPal. You know what? I'm not at a plateau because I'm not accurately tracking my calories, right? So you really, really need to be honest with yourself. It's okay. Everybody stumbles on this journey. It's hard. It's a really, really hard journey. But what I want you to do is understand that you can't be not tracking your food accurately. You can't be saying, oh, it doesn't really count. This donut, it was a one-time thing. I won't put it on the food tracker or whatever you're using to make sure that you're in your deficit, right? The problem is those little things stack up, right? And they build and build and build. And next thing you know, you're sitting at maintenance or you're sitting at a surplus and you're wondering why you're not losing weight. And worse, you're blaming it on crappy genetics. Genetics do play a factor. That's true. But if you're in a surplus of 1,000 calories, your genetics are not the problem, right? Your calorie surplus is the problem. And I know this is harsh, but this is the truth. I'm not going to lie to you. You have to be 100% sure that you're in that deficit and that you've truly reached a plateau. Now, if you're 100% sure and you've tried all of these tips, maybe it's time to enroll a physician. Could be that some medication that you're on is causing you some issues. It could be that your hormones are out of balance. It could be a number of things that I, as some fool on the internet, cannot diagnose you with. You need to seek medical help at that point, right? So these tips only go so far. And if you're being honest with yourself and you're putting these tips into place and they're still not working for you, we need to move more towards the professional realm. Doctor, nutritionist, dietitian. Those are the things that I'll say, okay? So I say all of this with love. I'm in the same spot as you guys, trying to lose weight, and I know how tough it can be, and I know how tempting it is to lie to yourself, but we have to fight against that, all right? Sound good? Okay. All right, guys, thank you so much. That's all I have for you today. If you made it this far, comment down below what your favorite tip was. I'd love to hear from you. I hang out in the comments all the time. Leave a like on this video. Share it with somebody that's on their own weight loss journey. Maybe we can help get through some plateaus for some people. Appreciate you guys again. If you want to come catch me live, twitch.tv/CaptainSpaceBeard. If you'd like to email me, it's down in the description. Join our Discord channel. We'd love to hear from you. I think that's all I got to plug, so I'll leave you with this. Get strong, stay strong, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.